You. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here with another edition of the YouOrns 10-minute take on Birmingham 1, Watford 1 at St Andrews. Watford unfortunate not to get all 3 points here. They controlled the tempo and the pace of the game. They did have a lot of the ball, about 70% or so possession, against the Birmingham side who had Troy Deeney raring to go against his former team. Of course, this is the first time he has played Watford since he left them almost exactly a year ago. And Deeney, well, he had one or two chances that he should have scored on, but it was not to be for him. The storybook ending to that game did not quite materialize for Troy Deeney or for Birmingham, because Birmingham really were outplayed, I think, for large spells in this game. Yet they went in front against the run of play against the Watford side, who looked a lot better than they had in the previous 3 games. I think this is the best game Watford have played this season so far. After 4 championship games, their best performance. And they were motoring along in the first half, having the lion's share of the ball. The attack looked very good, very solid, very fluid, without Ismail Assar, who has an injury. I'll talk about him in a few minutes' time. But João Pedro looked like he had an idea in the first half, not so much in the second half. Just things didn't just come together for him, didn't quite make it count when it absolutely needed to count. And that was really the story of the night for Watford. Although they looked very good going forward, they lacked that quality finish in the end that would have given them 3 points against the Birmingham side, who I think were able to catch Watford on the sleep, if you will. They were napping after Bakun Bio missed a sitter, incredibly enough, on his starting debut start for Watford. He should have made it 1-0 in the 14th minute or thereabouts. He did not make it 1-0. And then, so often as we see in these matches, Birmingham made Watford pay. Watford hit the post as well before Scott Hogan's ball across. Hogan was not properly kept at bay by Sierralta, who really allowed him to get right by him. Hogan squared the ball back, and on came George Hall to the ball in a very similar fashion to the way that Tom cleverly did last Friday night at the Vic to score the way he did, except on the other side of the goal. It's amazing how similar the 2 goals are if you look back at them. And then that was it. Birmingham up 1-0, very much against the run of play. But Watford continued undaunted by that Birmingham goal, and they had a goal line clearance later on in the half that should have made it 1-1. But Sanderson came in and cleared the ball off the line. It was very, very close to going over, but the entire ball did not go over. In the championship this season, there is a goal line technology. The referee's watch did not ping, and as a result, it stayed at Birmingham 1, Watford 0 at halftime. Watford, for the first time this season, had gone behind in a game, and they were undaunted into the second half as well. They went and continued to press and press hard against a Birmingham side that were content in large parts of this game to sit back deep and do the defending and try to set up on low blocks. That meant Watford had a lot more space to advance into areas on the pitch, and they made good width and good use of the width of the pitch, especially in the second half of the game. In fact, in both halves, they were very good with their width. And I think the formation that Rob Edwards had, reverting to his customary 3-5-2, I think worked very well for this game. Of course, Camera suspended, Saw, and he was out injured with a hamstring pull. He is expected to be back in the lineup this coming Saturday at Preston. We, of course, have heard news in the intervening time that Saw is someone who is being looked at by Crystal Palace very seriously. Negotiations reportedly are about to get underway if they haven't already. So Saw may not be in a Watford shirt this weekend, but we will see how things play out between now and Saturday at Preston. But the bottom line is that the 3-5-2 looked really good tonight, and Gaspar, who is normally the customary right back, really excelled in the right wing back role. Now, I still think that Watford perhaps could get some protection there, but Gaspar shined tonight. I was very impressed with Gaspar, who didn't have such a great game in his debut, but I think against Birmingham was very, very effective. Got into all the right areas on the pitch, made himself available, made space for passes, made areas where he could run into. He was very good. I really liked Gaspar tonight. I thought that he did very well indeed in that 3-5-2 formation in the wingback position. Ken Sema, I think, was very good tonight as well. He, of course, was the beneficiary in the second half of the Watford goal. He provided the Watford goal for Tom Cleverley on Friday. And then tonight, he scored the goal of his own. The goal is being credited to him. He drove the ball low into the box. It was probably about a 12 or so yard finish, and very good goal scoring there from Ken Sema. It looked like it may have taken a nick off of Raymond I, but look, the official scorers and have deemed it at this point at least a Ken Sema goal. Doesn't matter really as long as it goes in, whether it's Sema or Manai. It is a Watford goal, and it was a Watford goal, and it was 1-1 at that point. Well deserved for Watford, and they really should have gone on and killed the game off. There was a couple of other chances that they had, none more notably than João Pedro. I think it was around the 79th minute or so, or 80th minute, whenever it was. He was clear through. He grabbed the ball that was poorly cleared by the goalkeeper, and all of a sudden he pounced on it, ran with it on the slick surface because it was pelting with rain throughout the night. And João Pedro somehow he just completely fluffed it and smashed it way over and way wide of the target. And that was the big chance for Watford to finish the game off, much like last week at in the very same pretty much the same location in the Midlands at West Bromwich Albion, where Watford had a chance in the late 70-minute mark, early 80-minute mark of taking the lead. He had a real chance to do that from the penalty spot. And of course, we know that Saw did make a huge hash of that penalty. So 2 times now in these 2 away games, Watford had very gilt-edged chances to one-on-one with the goalkeeper finish off their opposition. They did not do it. And so I go back to my point. In this game, finishing was the big enemy for Watford. They were fluid. They played their best football of the season. They were very good in defense despite Sierralta's error. I thought Sierralta was terrific tonight. I also liked what Chowdhury did. How can you not love Hamza Chowdhury? Goodness gracious me, he has fit in like a hand in a glove. I think, arguably the best player on the pitch for Watford last night or tonight. But the fact of the matter is that all of the players, I think, were much improved than they were against Burnley. And I think from front to back, their best game of the season. They were very fluid, but it's that finishing that they lacked, whether it was a Vakun Bio's miss, as I talked about, whether it was João Pedro, really not quite putting it together tonight, despite his very good 110% efforts. He just couldn't get it done. And sometimes there are going to be games like this where players have got the right idea and good intentions, but their finishing lets them down. That was the case for João Pedro tonight. It was certainly the case for Vakun Bio tonight. Raymond I made no mistake. He was very impressive. I thought Sema was very good tonight, one of the very best on the pitch, along with Chowdhury. And also like the energy and the movement of Kayembe. Really liked what he was doing tonight. He recycled the ball, recycled possession very well in that midfield. I thought tonight he operated with the kind of confidence that we know he has and he shows. But he gets better and better every game now, Kayembe. He was terrific against Burnley, and he improved even more than that in the game against Birmingham. And there's only more to come from him. I can't wait to see what it looks like when Lauser comes back to that lineup. He's expected back in September in that midfield. And let's see how that works. Because if you're going to play uh, two, or maybe you're going to probably still play that five that Rob Edwards is probably going to go to. It depends on where it all situates. But then I think you'd have to leave Cleverly out on the side, wouldn't you? Surely, if you're going to have Loser, if you're going to have someone like Chowdhury, because you're not getting rid of Chowdhury in there, and you're going to have Kayembe. If you're going to go with a three, and then have wing backs either side of that three, that could be what happens there. And Cleverly surely would be on the sideline, but you never know. I don't think that's what Roberts is going to do. But my whole point here is that Watford's finishing against Birmingham was the Achilles heel tonight, no pun intended, for Tom Cleverly, who was out with an Achilles injury. Not sure when he'll be back, and we'll see how Watford fare. But one thing you have to look at here, with the fact that they did not do well in the finishing department in the game against Birmingham, you've got to look at what's going on now with this transfer window, because there's still 2.5, almost 3 more weeks until this deadline comes. And closes the window shut. And it's going to be just over about 2 weeks now that are left. And Watford are going to have to start looking at some real positions here. They've got to get that left-sided, left-footed left centre back, and they're going to probably do that very soon. Courtney Hawes is expected to be a Watford player in the next few days. There's a couple of other Watford players that are being looked at, prospective Watford players that are going to be looked at. Looking forward to seeing that if they do come in. It looks like they will, and we'll probably hear more about it in the next 48 to 72 hours, if not sooner than that. And then we also have to be looking at the front line, because Bio did not look particularly great after the first 15 minutes of this game, kind of disappeared out of the proceedings. And I think once he missed that shot, that header, it was a real sitter that he missed. I think he kind of retreated a little bit in some of this game. He made good running at times, but he really didn't put himself about. Bio's not that kind of player. He plays more off the shoulder. He's kind of more like an Andre Gray type in that way. He likes to play off the last defender off the shoulder, and he will make himself busy. He will make a lot of running, but he's someone that likes to play off the shoulder, where you've got someone like a Raymond I or someone like a Keenan Davis, who also made his debut in the game tonight, who like to be target men, who like to turn around and create, who like to create space, hold up the ball. They're good with their timing. They're good to turn a defender, and they're good to lay the ball off and create space for others, and lay the ball into space to create other opportunities for wing backs or attackers. So on the sides. So they're different breeds of striker. I hope that Bio does start to get into the rhythm. This is only his second game in the professional level in England, so he's gonna obviously need another few games to get up to speed. But these games come thick and fast, and he really doesn't have a whole lot of time to start to do that. I think it will help to rotate out these players, and I expect that on Saturday you're going to see something different in terms of the starting lineup. I think you could see Keenan Davis actually start that game at Preston on Saturday, but he did come into the game, later on against Birmingham. Didn't really have a touch of the ball, didn't really get going. And so really you can't really chalk up much for Keenan Davis on his debut in a Watford shirt, but I definitely would have loved to see Rob Edwards put him in earlier in the game. But generally speaking, generally speaking, Rob Edwards' subs once again were on the money. Would have liked to see some of them come in a bit earlier, but I really didn't have any complaint about how he orchestrated the game at St. Andrews. He neutralized Troy Deeney. He was able to make the game far less physical, and I was surprised by that, because I thought it was going to be a much more physical game than it turned out to be. What happened was that Birmingham sat off, as I said. They were content to play a low block on defense and give Watford as much width as they were allowed to, and then dare Watford to break them down. And Watford were able to do so in the second half of the game. But I think Watford should have broken Birmingham down, and they did a number of times in the first half. They just did not finish, and I think that's the only concern I have now these last 2 weeks. Watford in their front office are going to have to make a lot of key decisions. Domingos Quina is out on loan again, and that's very frustrating, a season-long loan for him. I'd be shocked if he ever plays for Watford again on the first team level. It's very clear now that he is going to be on the out, and has been for now, 2 seasons at least. I expect that he certainly will be gone at the end of this season. And it's a shame, because I think Domingos Quina is a talent who can really progress in with Watford, but that is not what the board obviously sees. So that is what I am saying around that. As for the general performance, Watford, as I said, nothing to hang their heads about here. Look, you're going to have games like this. Again, as I said before previously on social media, there are times where this will happen. And look, last week at West Brom, we shouldn't have got anything out of that game. We were very fortunate to even have a point. We should have had none. Tonight, as it goes, we should have had all 3 points. We got one. So these things tend to even out in the end. It's on to Preston now. Again, the final score was Birmingham 1, Watford 1.